All right, I'm ready to start into this episode if you are.
Okay, the rescue. What do you want? Where do you want to start? Do you want to go chronological? Is there something that was hilarious that stood out to you?
Just go chrono, man. We'll get it all.
Okay, so we start out and we've got an Imperial. We're very comfortable with what these Imperial ships look like. And now we're very comfortable with what Slave One looks like. And we are in a dogfight right away. They're chasing down Dr. Pershing. And
love the sound of the blasters, of his lasers coming out. I mean, it's just so, I remember it from the video games I've played over the years. It has a very distinct sound that when you hear it, you know, Slave One is on scene.
Yep. And it's very interesting. The once that he's able to take the ship and it's on stun, and you think who's going to roll through the door? It's a Mandalorian, but it is not Boba Fett. It's our guy. It's Mando. And immediately, so there must be, like, in the Imperial ranks, there must be those that are like the part of the inner circle. Because of the two guys that are there, three on the ship, Dr. Pershing and the two other guys, one of them wants to make peace and figure out how to negotiate out of this. The other one is definitely of a higher calling of, like, because we've seen this throughout the season.
It's a zealot.
These other characters, they know their history. They are committed to, like, this cause, and at no point are they the ones that, like, in a lot of memes, you'll see memes that have stormtroopers questioning, like, are we the bad guys? I don't know if you've seen some of those humorous ones, but clearly this one guy is all in, and even to the point where he offs his co-pilot, and then he starts talking trash to Cara Dune about Alderaan, that he was on. He was
bad
on
move, bro.
Yeah, and her answer back to him, I was on the Death Star, and her retort to him, which one? And it kind of just reminding him of his history, that he's trying to push her buttons, because
it's the
look, does she have a tear?
I know, dude, he was digging deep. He kind of gave off that closet Nazi kind of KKK holdout vibe of the zealot that's a part of the the losing the losing faction that's still trying to hold on to power, and they're just evil.
Clearly,
it just I don't know if you remember the TV show The Following with Kevin Bacon. It was this kind of a culty show, and it was like the people next door can end up being the strangest, most, like, creepy, closeted, evil, vile people that would kill themselves in the most horrific ways to achieve the goals of the like, I don't even want to call it greater purpose, but of just the low trolling purpose of whatever they've sold their soul to. And this guy, he wasn't only like self-centered and just in it for himself, but he thought he was going to preserve himself by holding on to this dark ideology. And it was gross. I felt creepy watching him.
Yeah. And there's part of you that feels like, even though he's clearly an intelligence officer and thinks that he's going to be able to negotiate, or that there's no outs, he's not going to let Dr. Pershing be turned over.
He's like SS. He's like Stormtrooper SS.
But the way they told the story, like, everybody has a moment of relief, even though poor Dr. Pershing is hearing. It'll come back with time. There's like, good for you, Cara. Take him down.
I was just waiting for it. As soon as he started popping off, I just thought, she's taking the shot. She's totally taking the shot. Yeah. It was a small attempt as well of showing there's two sides to a story. How many millions of people died on the Death Star? And honestly, I'd never really thought about that before, because they're all bad guys, but they are people. Some of them may or may not want to be conscripted into the Empire's army and military, space force, as it were. But they are. and they're killed in the Death Stars. But I mean, in my mind, it doesn't compare in my sense of justice and ethics to blowing up an entire planet as opposed to killing the giant planet killer.
Yeah.
And all the people that were a part of that. But yeah, there was a little history lesson in there for anybody that hasn't watched the original Star Wars movies.
I wonder if they will, after this, authorize instead of a teardrop, like if you have like a blown up Death Star, if they would authorize like wearing that, and if you're a stormtrooper, you can get that tattooed there at like in a similar manner.
Because some of them do have those teardrop tattoos.
Yeah. The next scene, they're heading to the bar. You know, you're on this undescript planet. You don't know where it's at. Okay, it looks like there's factories there. And you have this encounter between, you start to realize that Boba, it's quickly established as they walk up to the table with Bo-Katan and her sidekick that, hey, I know that voice. And that there's basically, Boba is considered an outsider is what I took away from it.
Yeah.
And that Bo-Katan's like still got this arrogant quest thing of, not all Mandos are bounty hunters, you know, is what she throws out there.
They're like a lower form of class of employment.
Right. Yeah. A great fight scene where even though at this cafe they've decided to construct the tables out of concrete, little did they realize that they were going to have Mandos in there that were going at each other.
Which is probably a good reason to have concrete.
I would start going just back to plastic. Okay, easier to replace, and I mean less interesting for the fight scene. But they mess up like 2 different like tables from what I saw, and one of the best use of indoor jetpack use to position yourself first. Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, of course you've got a grappling hook. I actually threw out my arm to catch your grappling hook. And guess what, old man? You're coming this way. I'm not afraid of you." I thought it was pretty hilarious. Like her ability to equalize Boba.
Love it. Yeah, no, the whole torching each other at the same time and that stemming each other off. And that whole sidekick. Yeah. The whole sidekick thing, I really liked the dialogue there. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, and Bo-Katan just being kind of like, I'm the visionary leader. If we had half of that fight when we were trying to defend Mandalore, we wouldn't have lost the planet. You know, kind of like, you guys have all this piss and vinegar now. Like, where was that? Like, where was that at the heart of like our people when we needed to stand up? So,
but I don't think it makes Boba a sidekick, you know, in any way. And really, if you look at the whole Mandalorian series, he's either a lone wolf, he's partnered with somebody, or he's tagging along with people. Boba in the original movies was much more of a sidekick, and definitely in the Clone Wars cartoons or anime or whatever you want to call it, animation. But Mando gave more of a sidekick to Boba, like living in his shadow a little bit. But I can't remember her, Bo-Katan's actual sidekick. She is a sidekick. She is the sidekick. Well, what does he say?
Something about Casca was her like. It's just interesting. Like, don't get on all your high horse. And she's like talking about, you know, or have a higher calling. Which then I'm proud of Mando for saying, okay, you want to talk higher calling, they have the kid. Okay, and that's why
Trump card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a conversation stopper right there. And then comes the team up.
Yeah. So then they transition to the scene where they're doing staging. And it's interesting, even though they actually have some really good information now, as far as intel. This is one of the first times in the season that they had good intel of like what you're going up against. It was nice that Dr. Pershing like steps forward and shares his info, and even at first they want to discount them. But what they did that was so beautiful about this episode is in the arc of this one episode, they never before this episode, but completely during this episode, do they talk about the abilities that these Death Troopers are third generation. They figured out the weakness. It was the humans in them. They are completely droids. Because we've never seen this in episode 7, 8, or 9, because these are like, you know, like we've talked about, they're Cylons. They're a top technology. So clearly this technology is lost. And the way that they could speak to it as far as canon is that it gets destroyed. They didn't have to put up with any Twitter or any speculation, because it could fully reveal prior to this episode how undefeatable they are until this episode. So, you know, it was beautifully done. And then you could just assume that technology is all pushed away because it's never used again that we know. And
I don't understand the technology of the Dark Troopers, because it seemed as if there was going to be some type of Sith tie-in here, or that they were somehow pumping midichlorians and the Force into them, and they were going to be this like android, like this mechanical Force thing. I don't know. In some way, I was a little bit disappointed with them, especially when they engaged them in this episode. And there was like these like cold cryogenic type tubes that are like blowing off of them when they're ready. I thought there has to be a way more efficient way to like say, oh, the Dark Troopers are ready to go, other than the tubes blowing off of them. Doesn't seem very high tech.
Well, yeah, and that blew me away. I had lots of questions about these tubes blowing off of them. Okay, number one, if you're firing all of the Dark Troopers up at the same time, wouldn't all of those things disengage at the same time? Like, okay, when they're at 89% charged, the stuff blows them. And then number two, that just doesn't seem like technology. Like, you're wanting me to believe they're undefeatable, and this is the technology that you have them plugged into the wall.
Yeah,
it blew me away. It's beautiful visually. Okay,
sure.
I just didn't understand the technology. There's a lot of lost energy, and I can't completely grasp that.
What is being pumped into them that then signifies that they're ready, and now they're full up on that? And so, like, why are they needing to be recharged? Like, what are they running on?
Right. Yeah. There's some unanswered technology that's not there, and I'm pretty confident they're not running on midichlorians. Okay.
They're not. It's not as weird and dark and twisted as I thought it was going to be.
But they were next generation, definitely. I was thinking they're clankers. The way that they had them march just reminded me of how the clones used to talk about clankers in the derogatory, referring to the droids.
Yeah.
The guys that would say Roger, Roger all the time. Just how they keep stepping forward. And there was definitely, like we talked about, a very must punch, must smash. You know, there was
but no vocalization. There's no auditory communication between them at all, which, you know, even the clankers, you know, Roger, like there's this humor kind of play. We'll get to other parts of the
because it was like
Dark Troopers coming up.
The only emotion they have is, I have really red eyes right now. You know, that was like very expressive emotion.
They have one expression, kill.
Yeah. All right. So they're doing their recon. They figure out that they've got to lock them down, and the way they get on board is they have this dialogue between Bo-Katan and Boba about, make sure your shots look realistic. And they're setting that up. There's going to be history. There's something happening in the future between Boba and Bo-Katan. I've got to feel it, because
you think a tension, like a battle, a tension.
I think there's just some unresolved issues there,
or a chemistry.
No, I don't think there's chemistry there.
Yeah,
but there's certainly a disgruntled respect, I guess. You know,
too many cooks in the kitchen type thing.
Yeah, kind of like, I'm the one that tells people the information, and I get the last word. Don't be telling me about the cannons on the deck and not getting hit, you know. But thanks, you know.
And maybe hers goes back to just like he's a test tube baby who's just grown up and become a little chippy, you know.
Yeah. So now, do we think that is Boba? Was he the story? Correct me if I'm wrong. Jango Fett wanted one of the clones for himself,
right?
Correct. And that was what Boba was.
But he grew at natural maturation pace and not accelerated.
He wasn't accelerated. Okay.
Yeah. But he's very much become his own, you know, his own person and own identity. And he's not, you know, like he said in the one episode, he doesn't give allegiance to anyone in the episode that he was introduced in. And so he's very much the lone wolf bounty hunter, which really saddles up with it. But you know, he's been stewing post Sarlacc pit on Tatooine for a while, and now he's got all these plans. We find out, but he's on this side mission right now, fulfilling his commitment to Mando.
Right. Man of his word. So then we have a very exciting scene where the chase scene they foil. They're able to land their cruiser. They're able to get in there. And
was it a landing? I mean, it was a landing, but it wasn't a spotless landing.
Well, and that's what I was wondering. Like, did they just decide to not engage? Like, because I've seen those landed like perfectly on different like ships. Like, were they trying to create some excitement, or what was going on there? Because I'm pretty confident that one of the first times that that Vader comes and visits, he lands perfectly on one of those and comes out to a bunch of troops being out there.
Yeah.
They have the technology. So was it just planned that they were going to land that way for excitement and drawing attention? Or, so that was...
I didn't understand the reasoning behind why you crash landed other than to be that distraction. So that they can accomplish the mission.
Yeah. But in that, I don't understand why Bo-Katan did the talking and she didn't have Casca do the talking, because I would think that Moff Gideon being on the bridge, he would recognize of all individuals Bo-Katan.
Right.
So
that's a good point. That seems inconsistent.
But they land and they're coming out, and their idea is that they're going to make a big scene. And it is one of the coolest. If you don't remember seeing it, it is like a wrestling tag team kneeing that happens. So Casca, who is her background is a wrestler. They come down the steps. Bo-Katan uses her grappling hook to pull one stormtrooper towards them, and Casca does a flying knee to knock the guy out. I thought it was...
Wait, are you... Casca's the other Mando chick?
Yeah.
Wait, so she has a wrestling background in what? Professional wrestling?
I believe that she's a professional wrestler.
She's not a very like big lady. She's more slight build, but Cara Dune is like her in real life. She's an MMA fighter, right?
Right. And you can see different. Okay. I believe that that's her background. I'll fact check that. You know, never let facts get in the way of a good story, I've heard.
Okay.
But
I'm just clarifying. I'm not trying to trying to fact check you, because I don't know.
But check out the tag team kneeing that happens. One of them uses the grappling hook. The other one flies forward and delivers like this power knee to the stormtroopers.
It's great.
It's a great scene. And we start to see them charging up the Death Troopers. We talked about the charging tubes and how we're concerned about the technology. Well, and maybe we have to have like unresolved technology that the Empire doesn't have everything figured out, or they would dominate us. Okay, So it's good that they have like some lacking things there. Mando.
They are tough. The Death Troopers are tough, and they're jetpack powered, and they're operating in space, and yeah, there's lots of cool things about them, but I just don't understand them yet. I don't understand what makes them tick.
Once again, this is actually going to probably continue to give Mando issues with droids. In 2 seasons, he made a lot of like acceptance of droids, but now that he's got these nightmare Death Troopers, so he's able to get up to the thing, and only one of the Death Troopers gets out, and he has this great fight scene with him. But if the equation to take out one Death Trooper is whistling birds plus a spear to the head, he quickly realizes he's not going to be able to make those numbers. The math numbers don't calculate.
But just a pause here for 2 things, Steve. One, Beskar spear rules the day once again. Like he's trying all of his whiz bang, Inspector Gadget, Batman utility belt resources, and it really just comes down to, why haven't I used the spear yet?
Right.
And this is not the spear gets a couple of great scenes in this episode, but let me back up even just a little bit further and make the point that once again, handrails, actually the lack thereof, are really an issue in the Empire, and they could probably maintain their stormtrooper force numbers simply by installing handrails, so that they don't slip, get pushed, fall off, or when they get shot, they can actually maybe end up in a Bacta tank and heal, and not just fall into open space.
I don't know where they're allocating these funds. They're not. We've established earlier in the season they're not allocating it to better armor. Okay, because we've seen
it's Dark Troopers. I mean, we could have, it's handrails or Dark Troop. We can have handrails on every single ship in the Empire, or we could have
40 of these Dark Troopers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the decision that was made.
Pretty clearly. Now, my daughter wanted to make an appearance on the pod, and we'll have her do it some other time. But we had a rather lengthy discussion about they have this very much this women empowering moment where you've got Casca, Fennec, Dune, and Bo-Katan, and they are rolling. They are strapped heavy, and it plays out beautiful. Like they're like, hey, we're making it through the first chamber without much resistance. This area where we're going in, there's open sides where you're talking about no handrails. Like, okay, it's a sabotage, and you have 2 of them that are walking that don't have the ability to fly. They're able to take out the 4 guys and 2 or 4 people in front of them, and then the old stormtroopers, they get bought in, and see what we'll do is we'll hoodwink them. We'll let them get out here on this bridge where there's no cover, okay, and then we'll come up from behind. And then little do they realize that, dude, you've only identified 2 of your 4 targets. So where are the other 2? And it's beautiful.
Too late.
Yeah. And then they're just pistol fodder, for both
like that
and Casca. So
yeah, this is definitely
really
this is not Mando's Angels. Okay. Each one of them are formidable on their own. And would be a handful for Mando. I would like to see one of them up against one of the Dark Troopers. It just happened to be Mando in this scenario, and he had the Beskar spear.
They're formidable, regardless of if their weapon is jammed or not. They're willing to start wheeling that thing around.
The frustration and visual play that Cara Dune has with her
was awesome.
Her drop trooper,
she was
weapon
so
of choice there.
She was so mad. It's like I rebuilt this and I re-cleaned it 4 times. I did everything to spec. I've taken this thing. Why is it jamming on me right now? And
then she just goes Haas. Then it just becomes a club.
And she's about to get the last guy, and Finnick, the sharpshooter, takes out. Oh, well, thanks. I guess I'm with people that are at my own level. You know, it was fantastic.
I just love working with what you got.
Yeah. Well, and then the elevator scene, because there's kind of like this little bit of girl on girl, like pull yourself together, girl. You need to get that gun on, Jam.
It's gonna be all right there.
Yeah. And so she gets it.
Help with that.
And then she rolls out of the elevator, very similar to when you're watching episodes of the Clone Wars. There usually is a guy named Heavy that is carrying the biggest gun there.
Yeah, that's right.
They're just taking people out, and I was like, oh, this is like a classic reference to Heavy coming out there with a big gun.
That's cool. Awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I like the team up there, and you get the lone wolf with Mando in the different scenes, but you've got the ladies just taking care of business.
Yeah.
I mean, is it sequentially here? Can we talk about the Dark Trooper fight with Mando? We mentioned it.
Yeah, I think we have to talk a little bit more about that.
I mean, we mentioned how the Beskar spear really comes down to it, but I mean, he tried whistling birds. I thought the flames were going to work when he turns on the wrist flamethrower and the Dark Trooper starts kind of heating up from the inside of the flames. No, he got a little hot under the collar. No problem. Yeah. We'll just move on and take care of Mando. But the whole, Wreck-'em Ralph, Smash 'em Fist, just pounding his head. It reminded me of it. I can't remember which Terminator movie, but where they're just the Terminator's just pounding him and he's just getting, sinking into the ground. And you have that with the hull of the ship. And once again, the Beskar armor, the helmet, it holds up, and the spear wins the day. The Dark Trooper can't stand up against the pointy end of a Beskar spear.
Right. It will separate you from a lot of things. I think that one thing that Mando was missing is that he didn't get to see the scenes that we got to see, as far as the Dark Troopers are used to random things heating up and then blowing off of them. So a little bit of fire for them is like, oh yeah, that's
like,
wake up,
a little to the left, please.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a little bit out of order on my bringing that back up again, because they come out of you mentioned Heavy, and Cara Dune comes out guns blazing, and then they take the bridge and they can't find Moff Gideon.
Right. So then that begs the question. So where is Moff Gideon? And
what a weasel.
Yeah. I feel like the two stormtroopers posted outside of the brig was kind of like, what were they there for? Were they to mislead Mando into thinking, oh, this is the last hurdle, I got to take out 2 more bucket heads and we're good, right?
They're just punching the clock, man.
I think they're also trying to emphasize how tall Mando is relative to stormtroopers, because they have the we're gonna choke you out by taking you off your feet.
The Beskar spear was used once again. He's it becomes the go-to.
So I'm gonna set it up for you. The brig opens, and there he is. There's our buddy Grogu, and he's got the dark saber hanging over his head, and he's cuffed. So take me away. What your thoughts were?
Well, I wondered why Grogu's not using the Force. Are these shackles with the blue lights inside somehow Force dampening? Because before, he's in shackles and he's tossing stormtroopers around, and now he's got a dark saber over him, and he doesn't look super concerned. He's kind of resigned himself to his fate. He's not in control, and he's looking at Mando like, I don't know what to do. Well, how about you use the Force, Grogu? You're 50 years old. You just sat on the magic rock. Things are getting sorted out. Use the Force against the bad guy with the dark saber.
Yep. Yeah. And
that's my thoughts.
So yeah, that was. So we'll have to, when we go back and watch the Clone Wars, we will have to identify what kind of technology is in these binding cuffs that's different, that is effective against a Force wielder. One thought I had was about Gideon. He is consistently on every level. He is always using his tongue to divide and to try
his forked tongue.
Yeah, his forked tongue to be to like basically just assume that I know everything that's happening. I know that you've already used your wrist salvo on just one death trooper. Just assume that you know you are here. If you're here with Bo-Katan, you know she's a zealot and that she's in like just over the top terrible person. You just don't understand the other side. He's always planting the seed of deception.
And you know what's unfair about this is typecasting, because he just is giving off that Breaking Bad vibe.
It's very Gus. Really, he goes very Gus Fring.
Dude, yeah. There's just the kernel of that same character in different galaxies with different evil plots underway.
Yeah, absolutely.
He plays it well. I mean, the actor holds it well. He plays it well. I'm really interested in what his end game is. Like this whole Darksaber thing, he's got some type of, subplot running with Bo-Katan. He wants the child, and so he's got everything he needs from the child. He just wanted the blood. Once they start getting into that placating type of tone, that you're being lulled into this place of, maybe we're going to come to some type of, rational adult compromise here where no one has to get hurt.
Just go ahead and turn your back on me. Take the kid, turn your back on me. There'll be no harm to you.
And all the while, he's actually running multiple plots here at the same time that involve the child, that involve getting out of the immediate situation, and that involve pitting Mando against Bo-Katan.
Absolutely,
dude is running so many bets hedging so many bets at the same time.
He's got a lot of game theory going. Where
he is chess. That's what you said. Game theory. This guy, don't ever play chess against Moff Gideon.
No, because I'll be playing checkers, and like you said, he's playing chess, and it's just on a different level.
He has thought of moves that I will never imagine in an evil way.
So they have a fantastic fight scene. Anything that sticks out from the fight scene after he turns his back on Moff Gideon and realizes?
Yeah, well, I think my background really points out some of the parts that I really liked. Not to mention the fact that it actually makes a cross if you look at it.
I choose to see that.
I choose to see that too. They taught us in biblical studies, Steve, that exegesis is when you actually find out what the text says, but eisegesis is when you read into the text the things that you want. So I choose to see Jesus. I see Jesus anywhere I want to. That's what I'm doing right now.
I love it. I love it.
It's kind of dorky, but it's fun. I really enjoyed Darksaber versus Beskar and how it stands up under it. Mando has got the moves, and he goes into this Shaolin Kung Fu priest mode where he's like that. I think the one that is the most impractical yet the most artistic move of the whole fight was when he kicks from this little slight donkey kick into the
reverse kick,
where it reverse kicks around, and then somehow that force will stop the Darksaber from a forward momentum, which I don't know a lot about physics other than the times that I've really fallen down and hurt myself. But it seems to me something swinging from the back and hitting something like that would be more of a bounce than it would be a stopping force. But somehow, because it's Mando, because it's Beskar, because it's Star Wars, and because ultimately it's not real, even though it's really, that's a hard thing for me to say, it works. It works.
Well choreographed, because the number of blocks that are just on his, like him putting his Beskar and using
the double one, and then I mean, he is there. There's some katana karate stuff going on there. Yeah.
Very, very well done. I don't understand at any time, with his knowledge of knowing that it won't cut through Beskar, why when he had, like, if you have the dark saber, I'm just saying, if you're really deceitful and terrible person, just like chop he doesn't have Beskar over his ankle. Just like chop it, like, go for the ankle. Because I don't know that Mando defeats him if he's hobbling around on one stump, Yeah. So that would have been a huge equalizer.
That, which reminds me of Monty Python. There's the scene with the knight, and he just keeps getting he keeps getting cleaved at all of the armor points where there's no coverage, and Mando has those. There's torso, shoulders, neck, knees. There's these places, but no, we're aiming squarely for the Beskar because this is a great show and we want it to be prolonged.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So
he subdues Moff Gideon.
They head to the bridge, and the way he walks on the bridge, what were your thoughts? There was so much going on in the opening scene of that.
Just are you talking about the conversation between Mando and Bo-Katan and just her vibe? It's like, why is she not reacting in a more jubilant way, right? And then it's Moff Gideon like having to explain this plot that he has been just connecting the dots with quietly, of the dark saber has to be won in battle for the rule of Mandalore to be legitimate. And wow, what a tense scene.
He gives his best Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. What have I done now? I've created something fantastic that you two, who thought you were coming here to take this. Spoiler alert. We forgot to mention that Mando resolves before he heads off to the brig, that he did for the Death Troopers what I used to do in middle school when I was reading the Choose Your Own Adventure books. He flipped all the Death Troopers get sucked out the airlock. And what's beautiful is you start to forget that they got sucked out the airlock, and then you're like, hold on. Just 2 episodes ago, we saw them flying from the Sorting Hat Stone to.
They've got jetpack kicks.
Come
on.
So that's looming there, Okay, and so he's wanting to yield. He's like, this sword means nothing to me, and he genuinely, and I think it's great that Bo-Katan and Mando have had enough conversations that she genuinely realizes, you are one of those, one of the kids that completely doesn't know anything about houses and royal lineage and how things are supposed to be done. You're very convincing. I yield. Here you go. Take this. It's yours.
And do you see her hands by her side? It's not like she's tempted to do it. It's like she's tempted to just swing out her gun and shoot him so that the sword can be legitimately hurt. I felt like the tension was not taking the easy way out, but she was trying to resist going into full-on battle mode to defeat Mando.
Right.
Was that just me?
No. She's using all her coping skills to okay, I'm counting to 10. I'm tapping my fingers together. I'm
goose faba.
Yeah. She's doing all of her different
deep breaths.
Yeah. Of not relegating and going back to what she had talked about, not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters, but then it kind of doesn't allow her to not have a higher class if she doesn't choose to actually model being one that does things.
There's a lot of mental gymnastics going on in her head, and as the tension is being resolved by Moff Gideon, who knows more than Mando the Mandalorian.
Yep. And then to break the scene, I think it's Fennec or Casca points out, we've got incoming bogeys. We've got a number of incoming bogeys. Well, how many life forms?
None.
Oh, bing, bing, bing. Okay, yeah. Troopers out the airlock. Guess what? They lived through that, you know?
I think, how long did it take the Dark Troopers to realize that they didn't have to just float in space? Because that was a long time. Like from the time that they got spaced to when it's like we have incoming bogeys. Mm-hmm. It's like they were almost, I mean, if they would have been near a planet, they might have been burning up in orbit until they remember that they have jetpacks built into their frame.
Yeah. Like, oh wait, we're not connected to those tubes. Oh, aren't we supposed to go punch stuff now? Okay, I think there's punching that has to happen. So
oh yeah, we don't have to breathe air. We can operate in a vacuum. Okay.
Yeah. So then they have this mounting moment where like, oh, now it might be a good time to close some more doors as we see all these bogeys coming in. And so they're looking on different monitors. They're seeing, oh, these numbers are like, there's no way this is going to be surmounted. This is, you know, once again, how many times this season, how many times in this series, do they have these incredible odds? And then each time they get saved, like the spiders, they get saved by somebody. He's trying to save the child back in season 1, and he's got all these bounty hunters that have him pinned down. And it's a bunch of Mandalorians that fly in and save him. Time and time again, incredible odds lead to incredible moments in this series.
Okay, wait, are you about to go to where we have our guest Jedi appear?
Oh no! Well, why would there be a guest Jedi? Because what flies on the monitor is what was described as what would one X-wing. There's just one X-wing. Like,
right. Well, and when they were getting in, they always kind of back them into this corner with something, right? Mm-hmm. And as that was happening, because we just know that this keeps happening. This is a recurring theme. I said out loud as I was watching it with my kids, I was like, just waiting for the X-wings. Like the X-wings are going to show up. Somebody's going to show up. I didn't expect who did show up. But before we go there, Steve.
Did you notice that Grogu, like his hands going toward the monitor?
I did. That's
awesome.
But I want to come back to Moff Gideon and Bo-Katan and just this tension with the Darksaber, and ask you a question here and see what you think about this, okay? Because this tension is building that the Darksaber has to be won in battle. Yep. And so Mando can't just yield. Like he's just like, whatever, he's got what he wants. He's got the kid. Right. And this is fulfilling a purpose, and he's still on this quest to connect the kid with the Jedi. All of a sudden, as this X-wing flies on, and what looks like a Jedi comes out, and the green saber and the black glove on the fist, on the hand, and Moff Gideon's reading the room, and he's like, I got to do something here. This isn't going to turn out good for me no matter what. So what does he do? He goes for the kid. He's standing over the kid with the Darksaber, and now he's like trying to kill Grogu. If he's got everything he needs from Grogu, why is he trying to kill him? I don't understand that. I don't understand.
Right. Well, and what we missed out is that in this, as this is building up, you hear the pounding. It's the classic. We've watched the castle is surrounded and they're banging at the gate.
That's another Terminator mode.
The pounding just keeps building and building, and he's really forcing their hand. And he feels, I think one of Moff Gideon's downfalls is that he walks into every room and he comes across as he thinks he's the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. A lot of rooms that he is the smartest person in the room, but it's that arrogance that just makes you so disgusted with him. That then he resorts to like, oh, I'm gonna put my cape. I'm glad that no one questions why we all wear capes. but we're starting to learn.
Slides the blaster under there.
Yeah, it's so you can hide blasters when you are cuffed. And he goes.
Well, so there's this. The targeting of Grogu, unnecessary at this point, but he creates a really big distraction. I'm not sure what his end game was there. If he kills Grogu, he's gonna die. Either the people in the room are gonna kill him, or this Jedi that's making short order of the Dark Troopers is gonna get to him. It doesn't turn out good for Moff Gideon no matter what. So I'm not sure what his play there was. But here's my question. Okay. As this plays out and Mando goes for the diving save, right? Like, and the Beskar takes the blaster bolts.
Yep.
Not unexpected. We just know Mando is going to sacrifice his life to save almost anybody, but especially the child, especially Grogu.
Yep.
So who makes the final blow that puts Moff Gideon down? Because he realizes that didn't work. So now I'm just going to, blast her under the chin. I'm going to blow my own head off. And it's Cara Dune that knocks him out. So here's my question. Has she now won the Darksaber, or is Mando still in possession of it? Because she defeated actually, no, Mando is the holder of the Darksaber, so she would have to defeat Mando. So we still have the same problem.
Yeah. And she's finally given him the same dose. Like in the same episode, she went from just like blowing guys away that were these zealots to she knows that there's a price and that the worst thing that could happen to Moff Gideon is him being in ISB custody. And that's what he wants to avoid, because he was trying to do suicide by, hijackers. Like he didn't want to come out of that. The worst thing that can happen for him in his future is him being alive and losing the child and losing all the death troopers, or the dark troopers.
I noticed he didn't have one of those electrify yourself molars like that one zealot captain did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that helped me to talk through it, because I was thinking, okay, maybe the issue is resolved between Bo-Katan and Mando, because now Moff Gideon's been defeated, and it wasn't. Now the Darksaber can be whoever defeated him, which it would create another problem between Cara Dune and then Bo-Katan, and so there would still need to be some type of battle that happens. I don't know why there could be some type of symbolic battle. Why it has to be, full on, like, to the death. Sounds like it has to be to the death.
No, actually, no, it wasn't to the death in the previous fight of the two times.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Turned over. I think Moff Gideon, I just want to make it clear, he was trying to take the easy way out. He really was. He was trying to be a victim of the situation. He did want to, be taken out. But then I love how we transition to, hold on, the punching stopped. What's going on? I think those guys that were punching might be connected to, what's up with that X-Wing that just landed. They might be talking to each other. And for some reason, their biggest threat is no longer in the bridge, and they've done an about face. So
this is the first time we see the Dark Troopers actually show some initiative to think for themselves, or to react and respond to a threat for themselves. One X-Wing coming in with one life form doesn't seem to be the threat that's on the other side of this door that they're trying to break into, and they have no qualms about. Right. So what within the sensory perception of a Dark Trooper would retarget the main threat coming from behind? Is it so many Dark Troopers getting killed? Is it the green lightsaber? What is it?
That's what I'm thinking, is that they're wired together, and they've realized, okay, something. It wasn't the landing of the X-Wing. Whoever got off that X-Wing has moved the needle to the point where, if we could see footage of the landing bay, I have a feeling that we would see the Jedi doing what I like to call is, let me show you the ways that I can kill death troopers. Because he goes through, if you had
it's not a cookie cutter
board, you have a bingo board of ways that droids are going to destroy.
Spin the wheel.
They check them all off on
That's right.
the way up to the bridge. It's fantastic. Okay.
Did you see the one where on the walkway with no handrails, where he completely cleaves one in half and the sides fall off, opposite sides?
He wasn't going for efficiency. Like, I mean, that's what I will give, like, the Jedi. He was not always taking the easy way. There were some that go across. There were some that, you know, took out one limb or like just cleaved off a head. But yeah, at times he's willing to do that. He's also willing, which one of my favorite ones, where the Death Trooper basically ends up quivering, and he's done that thing. I'm like, I am trying to just squeeze your whole body until
crushing him from the inside.
Yeah, your circuit boards are all compressed, and you thought that those little tubes that used to blow off you caused some pressure and some stress. Guess what? This is next level. This is what it's like to be charged up, buddy.
This is what it's like to implode, dude. Yeah. Explode within yourself. So I did a little digging on, like, because it was just confusing to me that I'll just, you know, spoiler alert. This is Luke Skywalker, and I didn't even really see that coming. I was trying to figure out who it was. I know who it was. And until they reveal his face as he comes in. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, man. I was just
No.
I started digging into it, and I was like, could Luke Skywalker be alive in this timeline? I mean, if this is 5 to 9 years after the Death Star, second Death Star is blown up, then yeah, he's building the Order, right? Like, once you get out into Star Wars canon, that's what he's out there. He's flying under the radar because the Jedi have been hunted down, and he's trying to rebuild the Jedi Order.
Well, and what I like the way is that the original scenes of they have these grainy. It's interesting where the technology is, like when they choose to use black and white cameras on the bridge,
yeah,
versus colored cameras, because the first couple scenes where you see someone wielding a lightsaber, it's black and white, so you can't tell, is that a purple lightsaber,
right? Because that's what I was thinking.
Lightsaber, or is it red? You know, who's there? Who's this shrouded figure? And so I was fairly confident once I saw green. One of the other people, like one of the people I watched with, wasn't clear about the timeline, and actually had thrown out, which I'm pretty confident that Qui-Gon Jinn had a green lightsaber, and they were throwing that name out there. And so it was fantastic to see Luke. It's also, I'm glad that he's able to do commercials now with Jean-Luc Picard for Uber.
Those are hilarious.
They are pretty hilarious. That so it was awesome to see Luke.
And in my dig there, though, into the timeline, like, could Luke Skywalker be alive? It brought up, and I can't remember all their names, it brought up other Jedi, and it was a short list that could potentially be alive. And some of them I wasn't super aware of, because I haven't watched all the animated series that are out there, and I haven't read all of the fan fiction and things that have been written that have become Star Wars canon and accepted as just a part of the overall story. And so some of them I wasn't super familiar with. The other one was Ahsoka that I knew, but Mace was not mentioned in this short list.
Interesting.
And maybe it's because they knew that the other ones were alive in the Star Wars universe, whereas Mace Windu's, you know, where he is at on the Force spectrum, whether it's on this side or the other side, is really unknown. We just know that he fell. He was I actually got into a bit of not an argument, but no, it could be true with one of my kids about, you know, we saw, well, I basically parodied what you said to me. He's like, no, the Emperor electrified him with the evil force, and then he fell out the window. And I go, yeah, he fell. We didn't see him die. Yeah. And then they went, oh, I guess you're right. That could be true. And so I thought that this might be Mace, especially with the rumors of Mace Windu being in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Well, in addition to that, it's still unclear about where was Grogu and who protected him from Order 66. So when it was ordered that all the Jedi should be eliminated, who protected Grogu? Because
he would have been alive.
Yeah, he would have been alive, and we, up to this point, we've figured out other the only thing that should fear him were frogs and eggs because unless
spiders, because he didn't eat the spider eggs. Spider eggs.
That's true.
If you're an egg, you should be really afraid. An egg or a stormtrooper. Or a mudhorn. Mudhorns, maybe.
Mudhorns, on the list.
Okay, so Luke Skywalker. I immediately see his face. I immediately know who it is, and I immediately think this CGI isn't that great. That was my initial impression. I've watched it 3 times since, and it kind of grew on me. Like, I'm okay with it as a fan. I'm like, okay, they're grafting Luke Skywalker into this storyline, and he is going to become the Jedi Master of Grogu. That's kind of cool.
And also, there could be a cross promotion of like them doing like product reps for Botox, because nothing above here moves. I mean, he looks so young. So I mean, that may be one of the new things that they could do some cross promotion with. Luke Skywalker endorsed Botox because no movement.
Mark Hamill wasn't going to be pulling it off. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
he can do the movies that used to come out every year at Christmas with Star Wars. I think now they just do the Mandalorian. We don't get new Star Wars movies. We just get new Star Wars series. Which, man, I wish we could get a movie if we're actually going to movie theaters in the middle of this pandemic. But no, Mark, it's you've got CGI Mark, you got CGI Luke Skywalker on one end, and Mark Hamill making a rear appearance in one of the more recent Star Wars movies on the other end. I don't know. I think it's a win-win for Star Wars fandom, especially fans of Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely. Great moment. Wanted to point out some of the things that I mentioned to you through text. You have this moment where Mando he's ready to take that next step with Grogu, and he take off his helmet and allow him to imprint and know exactly who was under that helmet. They have a nice moment there.
That was a big part of the story for Mando, and just kind of this deconstruction of his dogma and erring on the side of relationship when it comes to the doctrine of his creed.
Yeah. And then you have this, hey, dude, we're from way 2 different worlds, where he's saying, you're a Jedi. And then Grogu sizing up. He can feel that this guy's the Force thing. He said goodbye to Mando. But he's also, I feel like Grogu is doing a little coaching of Luke. He kind of makes the case early on. I'm not big on walking. Okay. I like to be carried around. Okay. And then Luke, to make himself be less like intimidating, he rolls in the star of the show. He rolls in R2-D2. And that is the thing that seals the deal. It was pointed out by somebody that I was watching with. When R2-D2 rolls in, Grogu immediately is like, okay, what knobs do you have that I could play with?
Yeah, that's right.
I am like sizing you up, and you look like you have some sort of eye orb, like sensor thing. I bet you I could.
How much of that unscrews?
Yeah, exactly. You could totally see that in Grogu's eyes, like, new toy? Okay. Because this guy over here, just a couple episodes, was having me plug stuff in, and it got all hot and fiery, when he was having me be an amateur electrician. So I'm willing to head off with you guys if you have like shiny toys for me to play with.
I think I was probably more mesmerized at seeing R2-D2 than the reveal that the Jedi was Luke Skywalker. It's for me, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just that one scene in Empire where it's like, no, it can't be true. That I just want him to fall into oblivion, and let go of the antenna. But it's like R2-D2 lent credibility that Luke Skywalker would be good for Grogu. I think that's the emotional reaction I was having inside. It was like, okay, if R2's with Luke, it's probably going to be fine. It's probably going to be fine. There's a designated driver here. We're going to be good, you know?
Yeah. But then he does his arms. He's like, no, really, I don't walk very fast. If we're for any ground in this big old galaxy, you're going to have to carry me.
That's right.
To another pod. Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Luke probably has some type of Yoda sling laying around someplace. Some type of backpack where he can put in little green guys for flipperoos, you know?
Right.
Hey, real life side note here. Do you know that there is a guy that's a part of our church that has an legitimate, authenticated scale and operational model of R2D2?
Oh. The question we have to ask, is he willing to guide and mentor 2 young individuals in the construction of their own?
That's okay. But this guy, that's probably true. I mean, it could be sourced from bits and pieces from my garage. Probably not. But I wish that were true. But yeah, he actually has the paperwork for it. His R2D2 that he built is actually has been used in commercials. It's like a Lucasfilm authorized, fully functional, operational R2D2 replica.
That's cool. So he's out there like making wishes.
Version.
He's making wishes come true. Like I know that there's a bunch of people that do charity work, like the guys that are in the 501st Stormtrooper Legion. They have their own, like they go and they help make Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Do they really?
Yeah, they help like make it wishes.
What's their TK number? I want to know if it's true.
They know, yeah. And they have to like to be in the 501st and do these charity things or do march and stuff for different events. You have to be signed off. You have to be like inspected and stuff. But there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of good to like bring joy to the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. That's really cool. I would love to meet that individual. I would love to see the R2 unit.
I would too. We should do one of these days when we figure out like how we get together with people again and do stuff like that. We should go together. I know Pastor Jeff Dowd. He's the one that told me about it, and he's actually seen it and got pictures with it. And the guys offered it to the church. Like, if there's some way that you think that we could use this or leverage this for the church sometime or for an event, just kind of let me know. So I
want to dream big, and I think that ideally what we end up having is a Sunday afternoon. We have ideally next year, after the first episode drops on Friday, and we know that there's not so many Dank fans, or there's not so much scug in the skank pie that's going to happen. We can have a viewing pie.
Skanks in the what was it? Skanks in the mud scuffers, or what was it? All I know is I repeated it, and my kids were like,
in the scud pie.
My 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and 20-year-olds were like, whoa, Dad, I don't ever want to hear you. What was it? Skank in the what?
I think it's a skank in the scud pie.
So that sounds so bad.
I think we need to have a viewing party at the church, and we dream big, and we have and maybe us and the 7 other people that know about this.
That's right.
But we might be there.
And R2D2.
And R2D2. Exactly.
Okay. I'll bring my Boba helmet.
Yeah.
Newly acquired.
Yeah.
I didn't win it in battle, but okay, Steve, we're almost done. This is the longest podcast we've ever done. There's so much to cover.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. Yep.
I feel like this last part here we could spend a whole nother hour on, and actually the post-credit scene. I feel like we could break up into like 4 different podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we won't. Not this time.
So all right. Big reveal. Book of Boba.
Dial it in.
Yeah, Book of Boba. We get to see. We anytime, I love it when they've got me trained. When they show a planet and I see 2 suns, instantly,
right?
You don't even have to go over to Jabba's old palace. Okay. So we go to Boba. We go to the Book of Boba, based out of Tatooine. He's in Jabba the Hutt's old lair. Everyone, they get a cleaning of the house. They have a very defining moment. Very as one person pointed out to me, I talked to, there's a moment where she rolls down. Okay, so Finnick rolls down there, and she's coming down the steps first, and she shoots the chain of the Twi'lek that has been chained there, and she basically has this look of, we don't do that anymore. That's not happening in this house.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Go die in the desert on the way to wherever you're going.
Yeah. And you notice that, so Finnick, she takes out everyone except, you'd said his name earlier.
Bib Fortuna.
Bib Fortuna, yeah. And he's not, like, when they do the Where Are They Now? They obviously did that, like, I mean, he's put some weight on.
He's girthy. He's different species, but giving Jabba a run for his money.
Yeah, type 2 diabetes has not treated him well. He is put on some weight.
He gave up a long time ago. He's living the good life, doesn't move away from the throne very much. Why would you need to? People bring you stuff, and you've got a Rancor pit right below you for entertainment.
I was nervous the whole time. Like, why are you standing on top of the Rancor pit? Do you not know
Boba?
You're standing down? I'm like, what's going on here? Come on now. Come on.
He does have a jetpack, and he does know how to use it. And, it was interesting that Bib Fortuna brings up the idea about the Sarlacc pit, and that then he'd heard rumors, but they've been on the same planet, in maybe different deserts on the same planet, but still they've been. If somehow Boba escapes from the Sarlacc pit, he's probably not that far from Boba's palace while he's playing, Bear Grylls survival out in the desert and avoiding Tusken Raiders and Jawas and the townspeople.
Yeah, but he's going to come strong, and that's where he's kind of like, yeah, you may have heard rumors, but you didn't come out there looking for me. You didn't come to help me out. So guess what? You're not going to be a part of the book of Boba.
Do you know? I think however long Boba was in the digestive tract of the Sarlacc, it probably wasn't as long as he was in the desert. I think he wrote out like a 10-year plan. And here's what I think was on that 10-year plan. And please help me if I missed something. Number one, I'm going to get my armor back. Number two, I'm going to paint my armor. Number three, Slave One's coming out of mothballs. Those, we could flip-flop those because they happen in a different order. I don't think the side questing was very much on his agenda, but because of his personal code of whom he has no allegiance to, he had to go help Mando because
that was the price of the armor. That was the price of the armor.
Yeah, he had to pay for the armor, which is, man of his word, living up to whatever code he lives by. And then, but step number 4, this is the one I think he'd been working on the longest, was I'm taking over Jabba's operation, whoever's in charge now. Yeah. So it's escape from the Sarlacc pit, survive in the desert, get your armor back, paint your armor, Slave One, Jabba's palace.
Yeah, and Jabba's palace really just represents like his acreage, his farm that he's retiring on. I don't think he's going to go actively out doing more bounties.
You don't think so? Steve, look at the scene. I mean, look at this. He sat down like, this is my new kingdom, and I'm in charge of it. And what's her name? What's the sharpshooter's name there?
I think Finnick.
Yeah, she's drinking Romulan ale. Whose lips have been on that thing? I don't know why she's drinking the blue stuff. It looks like she went to Razor Ray's and grabbed the thing that the combs all stay in and just started drinking out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she was down there. At the counterpoint, and she picked that up. I think that she's also part droid, so maybe she's feeling like she just needs to clean things out.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so maybe she's trying to sanitize her innards. I don't know.
I just, the book of Boba. I mean, remember the movie The Book of Eli? Did you ever see the movie The Book of Eli?
No.
If you're into post-apocalyptic, this one's for you, Steve. It's Denzel Washington is the lead in that, and it's pretty fantastic. But the Book of Boba, it just lends itself to a canonization. Number one, number two, that there are multiple stories to be told here, and number three, we may not know what those stories are yet, but the fact that there's going to be a forward arc means that you have to get into the backstory which, I mean, let's start at the Sarlacc pit. Like, can we have an episode in the Book of Boba where like we see we see Han Solo accidentally send Boba to his fate off of the sand skiff, and then once he falls into the Sarlacc pit, what happens next? Can we see that? That'd be great.
Well, and also I want to see the scene that was like immediately before they headed out to the Sarlacc pit, where he had actually taken the jetpack in, and you know how they do that free diagnostic at YouTube, and they tell you all the things that are going to go wrong,
all the codes. Yeah,
on the report was like, yeah, you need to get your motivator's fine, but there isn't a switch that if inadvertently hit incorrectly will launch you up. Okay,
the situation's not nominal.
It's on the fritz, so we're recommending that you replace that. And he's like, I've got another.
I'll get it next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you put me out a quote on that, and then I'll take it to somebody else and see if they can lowball you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever do that.
Whatever the equivalence of rockauto.com, he was going to try to price things out and save a little bit of money. But anyways, I digress.
Dude, he's looking pretty gangster here.
Yes, very much. He's also there's different rumors of if it will be a full-on series or if it will just be a mini series, like 4 or 5 episodes. Still unclear. I have a feeling that it's unclear so that they can gauge people's excitement and also solicit the stories. I hope that there's the one thing that comes out of the pandemic is that like people have had time to plan out like a big, very similar to what they did in Marvel, where they have like a phased thing where like, okay, things are building up to an actual another side movie, you know, and then they builds up to another.
Well, and then with Marvel, they all kind of interlace, and you can watch them in a certain order to get the story.
Right.
I like that. Yeah. They seem to have done that with the Star Wars movie releases around Christmas time for the past few years. Well, some new character development, but I mean, they're scooping up fans like us that were just around for the original Star Wars and you know had certain characters like Boba Fett that we really. Like, how have they zeroed in on the Mandalorian and then Boba Fett? Like, was the Mandalorian like a whole ploy just to reintroduce Boba Fett?
I think on some level, but like there really are some of the more intriguing because it dabbles in bounty hunters and it dabbles in a lot of the unknown and a lot of the things that interested us, like. What do we know about their code? Is there what's the difference between the bounty hunter code and a Mandalorian code and their loyalties? So I'm just excited where it's going, man.
Okay, we're wrapping this thing up, right?
Yep, we're wrapping it up.
So I got with naming this "What Is the Way."
Mm-hmm.
I got to say I'm not really sure from a Mandalorian perspective. Now, from a Christ-centered perspective. I'm going to come back to every single time, as I have multiple times we've discussed, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And when Jesus boils it all down to a code, it's love God with all you are and your neighbor as yourself as the way. This is the way. So in real life, what is the way? For me, that is the answer that leads to a lot of variables, a lot of questions, a lot of ways of going about being obedient to who God is calling and leading us to be as followers of Christ. Within the Mandalorian series, I don't know what the way is, other than that Mando is finding his way that has become less and less restrictive in a legal sense of following a code. And more defined by the importance of relationship and having a cause to live for beyond your own selfish gain, as well as the overall theme of being willing to sacrifice yourself in order to help and save others in the process. Sometimes reluctantly, but it's becoming a habit and quite a dangerous habit for the Mandalorian. Boba, on the other hand, just seems really jaded. He's been thinking about this a long time, and now things are coming together.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's still my favorite, man. I mean, Boba Fett, come on, this guy.
Yeah. We will have to talk off air, like what our plan is, like if we were going to like once a month get together and go back and do a recap of episode 1 through the first season once a month, or what our plan is. So stay tuned for what the future of the podcast will hold. But
because there is a future.
I don't think we're done talking about and figuring out what the way is, even though for today I have spoken.
You have spoken, and I received that word. And I'm glad that we have embarked upon this journey together, my friend. This is the way.
This is the way.
See you, Steve.
Have a good one.
You too.